Right, so we're going to pick up tonight Zayin Amud Aleph, about 12 lines from the top, starting with the word Ulamai. So it's picking up in the middle of a Gemara. We said yesterday there was a Brayso which was discussing when you have a conflict of a Chiyuv Mises Beis Din, someone has to be killed in the Beis Din, and it's Shabbos. Should they do the Aseh, the commandment of killing this person on Shabbos, even though it's in conflict with the lav Sheish Bekaris and Misa? This is right. Sheish Bekaris with Skila of being Machal Shabbos. So the Brayso had 3 steps. The first step, the Brayso said yes, they should. Then he said maybe not. Then we said again, they should. So what was the conversation? What were the different possibilities that we were thinking through? So yesterday we said one idea, and now the Gemara is going to go back. According to the original understanding, all the way back of Beis Din, say that the discussion here was a conversation of should we say that the general conflict between Aseh and Losa say should it be applicable here? That was the conversation. So how do we understand the response, the different responses in the Brayso? So here we explain. The first step of the Brayso is how do I understand the post says don't be Machal Shabbos? At first we think that it doesn't apply to Mrs. Beis Din. When there's an Aseh in Beis Din to kill, we do. Of Mrs. Beis Din, Docheh Shabbos, we'll apply the regular rules that when Aseh against a Aseh, we see from Klaim and Tzitzis that Aseh is Docheh. You do the Aseh. And then we respond, we only see that by a situation where the Los Aseh stands by itself. Los Aseh Sheish Bekaris Mishum Asli. But do you see a Los Aseh which also carries with it the stringency of the Chomer of Karis? The Docheh, like Shabbos, we don't see that. The last step was Oto Aseh, the Docheh es Los Aseh allows the Los Aseh Chomer Minei, and Aseh which Docheh Los is not that the Los Aseh is more stringent because it's Docheh, but yet we learn out from Klaim Tzitzis that we do Tzitzis, we put on the Tzitzis even though it's connected a love. Los Aseh of Klaim, and it's more Chomer. Malichum Razuta, Malichum Rabba. So we're suggesting there shouldn't be a significant difference between the level of Chomer, whether there's Karis or not. So finally the Brayso says Lo Sevaro. That no, you don't kill this person who needs to be killed in Beis Din when it's Shabbos. So that's all parentheses based on the Gemara before, but the Gemara rejected it. The Gemara said that's not pshat in the Brayso. There was never a havamina to say, we never would have thought to say that Aseh would be Docheh Los Aseh over here that you need a pasuk, because of course it's Sheish Bekaris. We don't say this idea Malichum Razuta Malichum Rabba. And the whole idea of the Brayso was should we make a Kavachomer from Avodah, and that was yesterday's Gemara. Alright, so we're looking now back to the question for a source that we would have thought Aseh is Docheh Los Aseh Sheish Bekaris. That you would have thought if a woman falls to Yibum to one of the arayos, that Yibum is done, Aseh is done of Yibum, even in conflict with the law Sheish Bekaris. Ella Isruch. The reason why you need Allah to teach me not to do it, because you would have thought it is. I would have thought that the whole ervah of Eishesach, the whole situation of Yibum, where there's no arayos, right? There's no arayos. It's just regular Yibum. 2 brothers, one is married to a woman, he has no children, he dies, she's widowed. The Torah says there's Yibum. She gets married to the brother-in-law. Well, that's Eishesach. It's a brother-in-law. The whole idea of Yibum is an ervah. And yet the Torah says it's mutter, it's permissible, it's even a mitzvah. So we call that a dover shahaya bichlal. It was included in a general list, in a general idea in the Torah. In this case, arayos. The general arayos which says there's an isser. The yotzal minakal was taken out of the isser arayos. L'lamed to teach. Here's a rule. Dover shahaya bichlal yotzal minakal is taken out of the klal. The general rule. It's to teach back on the rule. It's not only to teach on itself. It's going to teach on the entire kalal. The Tanya. Here's the Brayso that tells us this rule. Davar Shai Bichlav Yosef bin Klav, something was included in a certain rule, and it's uniquely singled out. So it teaches me on the entire rule. Ketzad, and here's an example. The Brayso says, it says that the person who is tamei and he eats from the shlomim meat, and it talks about his din. What's his halacha? There's karis. So this is an example of halo shlomim bichlal kol hakotshim hayu. The shlomim is one single korban. It was included in all the kotshim. It's one single type of of kodesh. We already have a pasuk talking about anyone who eats kodesh betuma, any type of kodesh, is going to get kodesh. So why was it singled out? It's singled out to teach me. Coming to teach that the kodesh that's given for someone who eats kodesh betuma, it's only something similar to shlamim. Shlamim is a kodshim that go on the mizbech. But yotzu kodesh berekabayis is opposed to something which is given over to monetary value of hektish, of the Beis Din. That if someone eats that betuma, there's no kares. That's the brisa. So we follow through. Hachanami, we're trying to pull over the brisa to our case of Yibum. Here also, Hava Amina would have thought Ishesach b'chol. The general case of Yibum, which is an example of Ishesach, a brother-in-law getting married to his sister-in-law, that was already included b'chol kol harayos, including all the rest. Also, the Torah that singled it out by the parsha of Yibum, saying do Yibum, right, to get married to the brother, to the sister-in-law. Lahaki sholah is to compare v'lomer to teach you. Ma Ishesach sharyo. The same way that the brother-in-law is motor by Yibum, af kol harayos na mishayim. To teach me that all harayos have this heter, this permissibility of, in the example of Yibum, to do Yibum. Gemara responds, mi dami, that's not comparable at all. Hasam klal be'isr u'prat be'isr. By the case of the brisa of Shlomim and the Kodesh, so the klal, the Kodesh in general, is expressing an isser. You're not allowed to eat kodesh betuma. The prat, the Torah singled out one type, the shlomim, that expressed the same thing, but by the singled out kodesh. Shlomim also, you're not allowed to eat it betuma and then kares. It's the same thing. Just one is general, one is single. Hacha is opposed to here klal be'isser. The klal of arayos, all arayos are also. It's an isser. Uprat beheter, the singled out erva is not repeating the same iser, just singled out way to have this rule. It's giving you a heter, so you don't have this rule at all. This is called something else. This is called, it was included in something, and it was singled out to teach me something new that you didn't know yet. And here the rule is not like that. Here the rule is you're not able to apply it back to give it the rules of the klal, and Rashi adds in for our sugya, and you can't give the klal, the general idea, the rules of it either. You can't go either way. It's something new. Until the pasuk said it clearly, until the pasuk befeirush put it back in. And here, where do we see that rule? The Tanya. The Brisa says this rule, as we just said. And here's the example of the Brisa goes to say, so this pasuk is written by the asham that the Metzora brings at the end of his saras when he becomes purified, and it says that he will slaughter the sheep, the asham, in the place that he will slaughter the chatos, and the olah in the place of kodesh. Why? Because ki chatos asham hu. It's like the chatos. This asham goes to the kohen. So, the question is, why does it have to say at the end of that pasuk kichatos ha'asham, that extra phrase? It doesn't have to say it. It already said. If it's going to tell me the place to shecht it, you slaughter it like the chatos in that place in the Azara. It said that at the beginning of the pasuk. And as far as any other rules, kichatos ha'asham, it already said elsewhere. This is called an asham. It has that rule. So why does it have to say kichatos ha'asham? Answer is because this asham masura we already know, and there's something different about it than every other asham. In regards to placing the blood on the thumb and the big toe, the right ones of the kohen. While every other asham, that's the pasuk says to do that. Take some of the blood, you put it on the kohen's big toe and the thumb. This one, the Torah says you don't do it. So it's something special about it. It was yatsu min haklal. For davar chodesh, so you would have thought for the same price it doesn't require to take its blood and its fats and put them on the mizbech like the other ashams. It's like the regular other korban that we discussed. So therefore it has it. Just so the chatos needs it. So asham also needs this putting the blood and the fats on the mizbech. What do you see? If the Torah wouldn't have beferish tell me, at the end of this passage, I would have said, being that the Torah singled it out in regards to the not placing the blood on the thumbs and on the big toes, only for that it has, but it doesn't have anything else. It doesn't have the rule of the regular chatos. So you're not able to, back to our case, pulling over the same rule, how would it apply? You would say, the Torah said Yibum is mutter for a brother-in-law, but as soon as there's also another additive ervah, another isser, you would not be able to apply that. Period. Tomorrow we'll continue.